Planet, and I'm your host, Warita Wimbush. And this episode is the reckless road to euthanasia. Yes, the reckless road to euthanasia. I want you to listen to my Anchor FM podcast on www. Yeah, www. dot stageleftplanet.net. Yes, I decided to consolidate my media where I can post my videos and my Anchor FM podcast on the same site. So I decided to consolidate. Indeed, I did. Therefore, if you want to see my videos, which I have a few that I post that you can see, as well as listen to my podcast all in one place, visit www.stageleftplanet.net. Visit those. I'm still updating my page for it though. Still updating it. But listen there because one, my videos have content that my podcast doesn't, because I'm casually having this conversation with you all, and there are things that I may discuss on the video that I don't discuss on the podcast, and vice versa. It's all unscripted. Well, I'll put it like this. It's scripted to a certain degree because I am a blogger. So I do include information from the article from my blog as well. And to read those articles from my blogs, visit www.stageleftplanet.com and follower of the way. .wordpress.com. I know I'm going to get a domain name. And I'll probably change the name too. Change the name of the blog and get a domain name for that one, especially since that's my very first blog for which I had written. So I will definitely do that for Follower of the Way Forever. That's the name. Follower of the Way Forever. As you can see why I need to change the name. It needs to be shorter. But, okay. This episode, The Reckless Road to Euthanasia, I want you all to be aware of this division that is growing in our country, in which is causing a rebellion and a resentment toward the baby boomer and older generation X populations. Ideas such as generational wealth have been used to create anger against the baby boomer generations, and the older generation X generations. Yet it makes no sense, because these are people who have worked to create their wealth, and particularly when building their retirements. So they deserve to be able to enjoy their retirement and the wealth that they built for their retirement. They enjoy that. They need to enjoy that. They don't need younger people sitting around like old vultures and buzzards being hateful and resentful about the wealth that they have, about the wealth that the baby boomers and the Generation X members have, okay, the older Generation X members. They don't need that, okay? They need our support and our encouragement. They need our support and our encouragement and our celebrating of them while they are in our lives. That is what we should be doing. We shouldn't be going around blaming the baby boomers and the older members of Generation X, because we may be struggling, because when we began to work as young adults or sought employment as young adults, the wages for those jobs were low paying, and also many of us didn't even attain the sensible employment that the baby boomer generations and the older Generation X populations received. Right now we're still dealing with this awful, unreliable unstable gig economy. I mean, this is the reintroduction to the right to work right before our eyes. Right to work is good when you need to be able to get employment right away. When you need employment right away and you need to be paid right away and you don't want to be put through all the stipulations that, say, labor unions and certain factors of the government will put you through for work regulations, then that's one thing. It's fine. But if you're trying to work, obtain a job to establish your career so that you can build your retirement, as well as have other benefits, then a gig economy is terrible, because you don't have that firm stability there. It's like the turnover rate in employment is much more heavy. It's much higher. The turnover rates for those jobs in gig economies are much higher, and the liability on an employee, even, okay, I saw my camera freeze. Okay, the liability that an employee incurs, such as you may have to buy your own equipment, having your own having your own transportation and stuff. It's too much you have to pay into even being employed. There are even, yeah, but I was about to say, but I'm not gonna say it. I was about to say something, but I'm not gonna say it. But look, they both have their pros and cons. Labor unions exploit, employers so that they can get benefited off of your employment with the organization. So that they can get benefited off of your employment with the organization as well, or that particular field. So you have to be careful about that as well, because some things that they may go on strike for or demand, it may not necessarily be in your best interest, but if you belong to that labor union, you may be penalized for not supporting that particular mission or agenda. So you have to definitely be careful about that. You have to be careful about that. All right. Now, so just be careful and be aware, okay? These days, particularly when there are population control agendas that are affecting legislation that is being passed, and government funding of private and public organizations, one has to be careful when viewing the subjects of euthanasia, and these will be lightly introduced to you in the form of quality of life. Be careful of palliative care representatives and so-called professionals, because they are quick to pull the trigger. Many of them, not all of them, but they are quick to try to convince you and to try to convince the patient. You know, you as the loved one, the caregiver, the guardian, they will try to quickly convince you that you should be more concerned with that, with your loved one's quality of life, with the person you're responsible for, with their quality of life. You know, the person that's in your guardianship. And ultimately, that's saying, hey, go ahead and end that person's life. No. My motto is let them live. Let them try their best to survive. Because if God wants those persons to be with him, he will bring them with him. Okay? He will bring them with him. I stopped because the garbage man's timing is terrible. He's picking up the trash, and this microphone will detect the sound of anything going on outside, and it can even hear my next door neighbors talking, even though they may not be talking quite that loud. It will detect their voices, and you can hear them in the background. So I'm stopping until the garbage truck goes far enough away. Okay, let's continue. Now, honestly, be careful. Be careful. Look out for your loved ones and be careful. Don't let these people pressure you into making decisions. Try to seek your loved one's primary care physician, if they have one, as quickly as possible, and get them involved. You know, because some palliative care professionals, they like to, what their job is. You know what their job is. So trying to help the person live as long as possible, that may not be it. Let's look at Jahai McMath. Her parents were constantly pressured into removing the life-sustaining supports and treatments for her. But her mother, her beautiful mother, did not let those people pressure her into ending her daughter's life. Even Terry Schiavo's parents and her brother, her family fought for her in the national media, in the national eye. They fought for her. Fight for your loved ones. Don't listen to these quality of life twits that want to pressure you into making decisions that go against what your loved one would want and what your loved one wants. Even if your loved one did agree to maybe ending their lives and they changed their mind, respect that they changed their mind. There's a woman in this documentary, which I discussed in my article. She's in the documentary, which I discussed in my article, as well as in my podcast. This woman, she was elderly, and she had earlier made a decision to end her life. But then she later on changed her mind. And her doctors, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe if I'm not mistaken, her relatives as well, ignored her latter request, which is wicked. That's evil. That's a murder. If the person tells you, listen, I changed my mind, then you help them in any way that you can. You help them. Just like people who are dealing with euthanasia, not euthanasia. I'm sorry. Just like people who are battling depression. There are many doctors that recommend euthanasia to those who are battling depression. And depression is not a reason to recommend euthanasia to anyone. It really isn't. It's not a reason. It's not a good reason, particularly, and to those who are mentally ill. Because how do you know that they are of sound mind to even make that decision? That's the thing. They may not even be in sound mind to make that type of decision. So fight for your loved ones. Fight for your loved ones. Please watch Fatal Flaws. It is produced by the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, and it discusses the medical cases of a lot of different people that experienced assisted euthanasia without their permission, unrequested euthanasia. I'm not going to even say assisted, it was unrequested euthanasia, is what it was. Basically, medical murder, legalized murder. That's what it is. And look at the euthanasia laws in your state. Study those. Study those. Fight those, because it is a issue. It is an issue that is like it is akin to abortion. Okay, where people's lives are being ended at the hand and at the decision of their doctor. And their doctor is no one to make that call. Only that person and that person's loved ones. And even the loved ones can be quite questionable, because you don't know what their relationship is, neither the intent either. So just be careful. You know, there are some people who want to end the lives of some of their loved one so that they can go marry another person, or they've gotten involved with someone else. And that's unfair to the person who is, you know, because they're still living, they're fighting for their life. And give a person the opportunity to fight for their life, because that is their right to life. That is their right. That is their right. So just be careful. Do not let these people pressure you. There's a woman and her daughter who encountered a doctor that tried to pressure the daughter into choosing euthanasia after she had a seizure, and the daughter told him no. And the mother overheard him talking to her, and he kept pressuring her. And the mother basically let him know, hey, look, you about to get your life ended. The quality of your life is in danger if you keep harassing my daughter. That's basically what that good mother, that beautiful mother did. So, honestly, please pay attention, do your research, try to consult with other medical professionals. Don't just trust these people and take their recommendation right off the bat, because you don't know them. You don't know their personal views, because there are many doctors whose personal views affect the decisions that they make for their patients. Okay? It really is. Like there, look at former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. That man was a racist. He was a racist against black people, and he was pro-abortion. And okay, first I will say he was a doctor. He's a doctor, and he is a racist. And he is so racist until his nickname, he used to go around dressed in blackface when he was in college. And he even had the nickname of Coon Man. This man is racist, yet there he is, empowered to make decisions that impact the health of the public. And the black people are a part of that public. And he was highly pro-abortion to the point that he supported partial birth abortion, that can involve the child being delivered, and while they're in the birth canal, the doctor breaks the neck of the child, and he wanted legislation to be passed that allowed the mother to be able to decide, even while the child was being delivered, whether or not she wanted to even continue the delivery and have the child, which is basically that's feticide. That's feticide. And abortion is infanticide. Infanticide is illegal. Why isn't abortion illegal? Therefore, therefore, be careful. Be careful. Because that man being a racist probably highly impacted his wanting to have laws in place for abortion, even partial birth abortion, to take place. Okay? And the reason I say that is black women are only 6% of the population as far as census data is concerned, and they represent 36.9% of the abortions in the United States. That's the highest percentage of abortions. So, that is led, according to this gorgeous man, Naheem Wayel. He presented these statistics, this statistical data. This data, he presented that in a discussion forum for reparations on Facebook. And Naheem pointed that statistical fact out, as well as the population growth of the black population in the United States has basically come to a 50% halt. And that, that's basically a 50% halt. And this is information that we need to know, because this is legal. What Ralph Northam was trying to do was, in a passive way, a subtle way, he was trying to legalize population control of the black community. That is what that's basically what he was trying to get done. And we need to be vigilant, not just black people, but all people. We need to be vigilant about these things. We have to be vigilant, okay? As Christians, and those who have a concern for the well being of humanity, those who are anti population control, we all need to be vigilant about the issues that we support. Do your research. And this is what I discuss in my podcast and what I wrote in my article for my blog. So, this is Stage Left Planet. I'm your host, Warrior Winbush. Focus on God.